Hi, welcome. I'm glad you could join us for today's Members Matter. Um, a lot of our staff have other commitments today, so the roundup that we do after the major program will be brief. But I think the major program that a part of this is L2 and all of its wonders and glories. And I think when I was talking to Brian about this, he says, I'm going to tell them more than they want to know. And I said, I don't think so. I think a lot of people want to know the whole story. And, it's like for some of us who've been around a while, we remember the early days of L2. And Brian said he thinks it went live in 2008, but I think it may have been a little sooner. But without further ado, I will introduce our speaker for today, Brian Smith. He has been a reference librarian, researcher, consultant, and now a builder of websites for the Reaching Across Illinois Library System, otherwise known as RAILS, our lovely neighbors to the north. And he has worked on their main website and several others, and he also provides technical support for Library Directory and Learning Calendar, otherwise known as L2. I know we rely on Brian a lot for help, and it's kind of like, Brian, why is it doing this? And yeah, he's the guy we go to. Yes. And so I'm just going to let him take over. Brian, do you want people to interrupt with questions? I mean, I'll be monitoring the chat. So do you want us to interrupt or just to wait until the end?
I have built-in places for questions in my presentation. So
Okay, we'll wait for that then.
Yep.
Okay, and everyone, if you have questions, please type them in the chat. Okay, Brian, take it away.
Okay, well, I'm gonna share my screen and well, stop my video while I share my screen. And where am I here? Here we go. Okay. I hope my presentation can live up to what Anna has talked me up here. I will be talking about the wonders of L2, and why am I not? There we go. Why am I not advancing here? There we go. Okay, and we'll make it a seasonal theme, and we'll be walking in an L2 wonderland. I will be talking about what L2 is and what it does, give a brief history of L2, talk about user accounts, events on L2, L2's directory of libraries and people, a little bit about the future of L2, and also how you can get help with L2. As Anna mentioned, L2 is the library directory and learning calendar. Its address on the web is librarylearning.org. It is a statewide resource, and it's funded in part by a grant from the Illinois State Library. And you can get help at librarylearning.org/help. L2 functions as an events calendar for continuing education, networking group meetings, system board meetings, and other events. It has the directory of libraries and library personnel. I say personnel because that also includes trustees of public libraries. It also functions as the home of the annual certification for library system members. And your L2 account is also used to log into other websites, such as the new Illinois Heartland Library System site, a few other sites. And your L2 account also expedites routing of support tickets on the statewide delivery help desk. When you submit a ticket to the delivery help desk, it uses L2 data to identify what library you're working at, to route your ticket to the appropriate people. I mentioned library certification for all system member libraries. That begins January 3 and will go through March 31st. So you will be hearing more about that in the upcoming weeks. The certification itself on L2 is very quick and easy for library directors or other designated personnel to complete. For school libraries, both Illinois Heartland Library System and Rails we're asking for additional optional information for the statewide school library data project from school libraries. This is something that both IHLS and Rails and ISLMA are all really wanting to get as much school library data as we can to help with advocacy and other issues with school libraries. A little bit about L2 history. What we now have is the second version of L2. And as Anna said, she thinks that the original L2 started earlier. My memory is that Illinois State Library and what were then 9 regional library systems began using it in 2008. Was developed by the North Suburban Library System with ISL support. It did include a directory, but its primary purpose was to function as a statewide events calendar. And after the 2011 systems merger, L2 became supported and maintained by Rails. And around 2015, at Rails, we began having internal discussions about the need to replace L2. And the reasons for that is that directory data was becoming more and more important. And the old L2 was kind of outdated. It was difficult to make changes to it. And it was also the only thing in the Rails IT infrastructure that was on a Windows web server and that used the Microsoft .NET platform. So in 2019, Rails received a grant from the state library to replace the old L2. We anticipated that the new L2 would be built on the Drupal content management system. We use that for other websites, but we were open to other open source approaches. We selected a company called Atten Design Group to develop the site, partly because they had already built a plugin package for Drupal called Intercept. It has an events calendar with registration, room reservations, and other features that we'd need. However, we do have particular requirements. So the L2 project forked from that standard Intercept package, and we've modified that quite a bit. We did want to keep the L2 branding for the new site, but because of the increased importance of the directory, wanted to put it on an equal footing with the events calendar, we did rename L2 to Library Directory and Learning Calendar. And the new L2 was launched in September of 2020. And this is the homepage of the current L2 as we see it today. I want to talk about L2 accounts for a little bit. That's your identity on L2. And as I've mentioned, your L2 account login is also used to log into some other sites, including the shiny new illinoisheartland.org site. That takes advantage of L2 for user authentication and really nifty one-click login. If you're currently logged into L2 already, and you click the login button on the IHLS website, you're going to automatically get logged into IHLS. And I know that your system's also setting up something similar for access to the Canvas learning management system, and Rails is doing that for Moodle. We don't have that set up currently for the Rails website. We're still in the process of developing a new site. But we will have that one click coming up. But even as IHLS members, you may want to log into the Rails website for some things like access to some of our continuing education recordings. So for now, you will need to re-enter your L2 email address for the username and your L2 password. But in a couple months, when the new Rails website rolls out, we will have the one-click login there. I'm going to assume that most, if not all of you, already have an L2 account since you signed up for this Members Matter event. But I will quickly go over account creation in case anyone needs this information, and also for the recording. Well, to get an L2 account, you go to librarylearning.org and click the Create an Account link that's near the login form. And something that's very important, there is a warning that you need to heed. When you create a new L2 account, you'll need to verify your email address within 24 hours or that account will be automatically canceled. So be sure to check your email right away for the verification link that L2 will be sending to you. So when you create a new account, you need to put in your name and email address and create a strong password. If L2 doesn't think your password is strong enough, it will strongly encourage you to beef it up a bit. Once you save that basic account registration, you'll be advised again to verify your email address within 24 hours. And you'll also be on a form where you are going to add your affiliation with the library. So in this affiliation form, on the affiliation field there, when you're adding your library location, begin typing the library's name and select from the suggested libraries. It's very important to actually select a library and not just type in a name. You'll know that you actually selected a library because there will be a number after the library name. That's an internal L2 identifier for the library building. You'll also need to complete other fields. The email address will automatically populate with your account's email address, but you can have a different email in your library affiliation. And this is useful if, for example, you work part-time at 2 libraries. You can have both job affiliations with different email addresses on the same L2 account. You'll also get a big list of checkboxes for indicating your job responsibilities. If you're going to be completing the library's annual certification in early 2023, be sure to check the box for certification contact. And once you save that affiliation, on your user dashboard, you'll see another message just begging you to verify your email address. You'll also see that your affiliation needs to be confirmed before your L2 account is fully activated. Now, either IHLS staff or your library director will confirm that you are actually affiliated with your library. We do this because occasionally we'll see a library patron try to create an L2 account. We delete those. Once you have an active account, you can get to your user dashboard through the Account tab in the main menu on L2. And if you need to edit info in your library affiliation, say you need to change your job title or email address, you can do that here. You can't change the library you're at, though. If you change jobs and are at a different library, you'll need to create a new affiliation and edit and delete the old one. Remember, I said that you can have different email addresses in your affiliation and in your account. So if you do need to change the email address in your L2 account, that is the email that you use to log in, you will need to edit your user account. And there's a nice purple button in your user dashboard for that. And you can also change your password when editing your account. And you can check personal interest for events. We're not currently using those now, but might in the future to provide targeted notifications for you about new events. If you've forgotten your password, the login form has a link for that. And you'd go to a form where you enter your email address and you'll be sent a link to reset your password. Library directors have special permissions for managing accounts for your library staff. So as a library director, and I have an asterisk there, and other employees with library administrator permissions in L2, you can affiliate existing L2 accounts with your library. You can create a new user who is affiliated with your library, and when you do that, that will bypass the need for email verification, because we assume that if you as a library director are creating an account for somebody, that is their actual email address. You can also approve or deny user-created affiliations with your library. And you can delete current user affiliations with your library. For example, if an employee retires or otherwise leaves employment with your library. To do these things, as a library director, you log into L2, go to your user dashboard, and you'll see that, yes, this particular person is a library director. In their affiliations, it says, they have an agency affiliation there on the left, saying that they are the primary administrator of the library. They have administrative access, also listed as library director for the library building itself. Only system staff or an existing admin for the library agency can create an agency affiliation for somebody else. I will talk about agency entities versus locations a little bit later, but library directors frequently, say for your executive assistant, if you have one, will create an agency affiliation with that admin access so that another person can have some oversight over the library staff list in L2. So to manage library affiliations and users who are connected with your library, the easiest way to get to that is to click on the library name in your location affiliation. And once you're looking at your library buildings profile page, you'll see an affiliations tab that you can go to. And there you'll see a list of your library's personnel and also a prominent purple add an affiliation button. You can add library trustees as well as employees. Public libraries should at least have L2 accounts for the library board president, but we do encourage you to have accounts for all of your board members. When you click that add an affiliation button, you'll get a form similar to the one we saw earlier that people get when they're creating their own new L2 account. You can start typing a person's name to see if they already have an L2 account and select them from the suggestions. Remember that more than one person can have the same name. Years ago when I worked at a library, there's a Brian Smith who worked at a different library, and once a vendor for a very expensive product sent me their account passwords, and I replied back, I'll forget that I saw this. So be careful about that. But if it is a completely new person who does not already have an L2 account, there's a link to click here to add a new user account. And that will take you to a form where you can put in the person's email address, first name, last name, privacy setting. We recommend keeping the privacy setting on visible unless there's a really good reason to set it to a private account. If the employee is being stalked, then yeah, you might want to set it to private. But be aware that we currently have some issues with private accounts logging into other websites with their L2 logins. After you save that basic account information, you'll be back to the affiliation form and you can complete with the fields that we've seen earlier. As a library director, you can also go to the affiliations on the affiliations tab on the building page to see whether there are any staff members waiting to be confirmed. So when you go there, if there is somebody waiting for confirmation, there will be a pending affiliation section, and you'll have the option to edit and publish that new person, confirming that, yes, they work at that library or are a board member at the library, or you can remove to delete somebody who really should not be in your personnel list. And notice that you can edit and remove the people who are already on your list as well. When a new person creates their own account affiliation with a public library, the library director will also get an email with a link that will let you publish or delete that pending affiliation. That just provides you with extra notification that somebody is waiting to be confirmed. The email includes instructions that will tell you what to do. And now we're at a nice breaking point. If there are any questions about user accounts,
I don't see any questions,
okay.
Brian.
Okay, I don't have the full Zoom interface here, so I cannot see the chat. So, okay, no questions yet, so we'll move on. Move on to events. Events on the L2 calendar are added by a number of event sponsor organizations, the Illinois State Library, the 3 library systems, catalog consortia can add events specifically for the members of that catalog consortia. And then we also have a number of groups in L2, including Illinois Library Association, a bunch of local networking groups, and we have several dozen groups that are able to post their own events in L2. An event sponsor can restrict who can view or sign up for their own events. An event may or may not use L2's built-in registration system. But for those events that do use L2's registration system, an L2 account is required to sign up for the event. And library directors can view and download their event registrations of their own library staff. To get to viewing the events, there's a nice prominent events tab in the main L2 menu. And you can look at events in either a list or a calendar format. I have to admit that the calendar currently is pretty ugly, and I pretty much always look at the list format. But either way, you can search and filter the events. So say if you want to look for upcoming webinars about equity, diversity, and inclusion, you're able to search that way. You can also limit events by sponsor, the type of library that the event's intended for, and various other facets as well. If an event uses L2's registration system and has registration open, you can sign up by clicking the purple register button. If the event uses an external registration, such as Zoom's registration or Eventbrite, you'll see sign up information in the event details when you click on the event name. An event might be held by video conference at several locations, or it might be an in-person and online hybrid event. Now, if you don't see a register button for an event, the event details page will tell you why. Either it doesn't use L2's registration system, or it's possible that it's restricted to, say, a group of people that you don't belong to. So for example, an event that's only for Rails, people who work at Rails libraries, you will not see the registration link for those. Or it's possible that the registration people might not be open. Either it's a future event that's not open for registration yet, or say it's something happening tomorrow and registration is closed already. Another reason you won't see a register button is that all of the available seats are already taken. So for this upcoming class that we have coming up, there are currently 0 seats left. That filled up really, really quick. When you do register for an event in L2, you'll need to select the location you'll attend at. As I'd mentioned, some events will be simultaneously at multiple locations. And you'll also select your library affiliation. As I had mentioned, some people work at more than one library. You can view a list of the events that you've registered for in L2 through the My Events link in the Account tab in the menu. And this list includes only events that use L2's registration system. You'll notice that there's also a tab there for L2 attendance, and that lists only events that IHLS or another event sponsor has marked in L2 that you've attended. So if something that you know that you were at isn't listed there, don't be alarmed. It's just that the sponsor was not marking attendance for that event. You'll also see there's a tab marked Learning Log, and you can use that to add things that you've done that either aren't listed in L2 or that don't use L2 for registration. So in your learning log, you can keep track of your attendance at outside conferences or other training that you've had that wasn't otherwise listed in L2. As I'd mentioned earlier, library directors have access to records of staffs that access to events that your staff has registered for. And you would go to your user dashboard for that. And if you scroll down the screen, there's a nice big button to view, download staff event registrations. And you'll have a few filtering options. I'm not showing it here on the screen, but there's a download link at the bottom of your list to save everything as an Excel compatible file. And we're at another question break. So if there are any questions, I will try to answer them.
I am not seeing anything at this point. You're doing such a good job of explaining things that I think we're good.
Well, thank you. Okay, then we are going to move right on to the L2 directory. It includes people and libraries. It's libraries that are members of IHLS, Rails, or Chicago Public Library System, which the only library agency at CPLS is Chicago Public Library. It includes records for both locations, which are the library buildings, and agencies, which are the legal entities. It's at the agency level that the library's membership in the system is at. So in addition to the libraries, there's also a directory of personnel affiliated with libraries, including trustees as well as staff. And the directory also includes the Illinois State Library, the library systems themselves, and the several catalog consortia in the state of Illinois. You are required to log into L2 in order to use the advanced directory search or to use the people search at all. Something I want to go into a little bit is the concept of relationships in L2, because these relationships between different entities is important, because that makes it possible that we can say, show all of the branches of the same library agency or all of the libraries that belong to a specific catalog consortium or all libraries that are IHLS members. The relationships in L2 also determine who can do things with other entities. And these kind of permissions kind of cascade down to children and members of an entity to which somebody belongs. So a user who has a manager level affiliation with a location, say they're a branch manager, can make edits to that location's information. A user with an admin level affiliation with a library agency, so the library director, for example, can make edits for that agency information as well as on any of that agency's child locations. So all of the library branches of that agency. System staff with appropriate permissions can edit information for that system's member agencies and their library buildings. Catalog consortium staff can edit library locations that are members of that consortium. And the state library kind of has superpowers to edit any libraries, although they rarely do so, and that's okay. To get into the L2 directory, it has equal prominence in the main menu as events. So you can just click on that directory link there. And that will go into the basic library search. And you'll see there are several search options here. So you can find, say, all public libraries that are IHLS members. And you'll see in the listings, these are the listings for the library locations. And if a location is the primary building, that is the main branch of the library, or for public schools, it'd be the superintendent's administrative office. It indicates that a location is the primary building for an agency. And you can click the library name to get to its profile. And on the profile page, you'll find lots of information about the library, including resource sharing, delivery information, various other things. The library directory or a branch manager can edit much of this information, although some edits need to be made by system staff. So for example, if you're a library that gets delivery 3 days a week, you can't just go in there and change it to getting 5-day delivery. Above the building name in the library location profile page, you'll see what in many cases kind of may repeat the building name, but that's actually the library agency. And if you click on that, you'll go to the agency's information page. And that has its own information there. You'll see there's several data points there. Next month, we are going to be updating all of these legislative districts in L2 because, yay, we have new legislative districts. Also in the agency pages is non-resident card participation for public libraries. And library directors and other people with appropriate admin access at your library can edit that information. And to edit either a location or an agency, if you have the correct level of access, there will be an edit tab at the top of the screen. Back into the directory search itself, if you go into the advanced library search, there are a number of search facets, and the advanced search is useful if you need to create a list of libraries. So if you want public libraries in IHLS that have a service population between 5,000 and 10,000 people, you can do that here. You do need to be logged into L2 to use the advanced search. And when you run your search, you can scroll to the bottom of the page and you can download your search results into an Excel-friendly file. Note that you are agreeing not to do anything naughty with this data. The directory also has a people search, which you need to be logged in to use. And in the basic people search, you can search by name or the library that people are at. And there's an advanced people search as well. That's also useful for creating lists. For example, you want everybody at a public library in IHLS who says they're head of circulation at the library. And as with the advanced library search, with the advanced people search, you can download the data as a file and you agree not to be evil. There's also a note there that people who have private user accounts are not included in either the basic or the advanced people search. Do we have any questions about the directory portion of L2?
I am not seeing any, but I have to say how much I love the advanced search. I've used it on several occasions. I've had groups ask me to compile lists for grants, because they are looking for partners. Also, like people who want to do comparisons with other libraries in their area. It's a good way, just to like gather lists, as you said. It's a very useful tool. And I think it could also be used when you want to advocate with your legislators. You can get a group of other libraries within that legislative district and, make your case together. A group of libraries and their trustees showing up at a elected official's office is more impactful than just one single person there. So things like that, lots of uses, easy to use, and I love it. So that's my comment, and I see no other comments in chat, so back to you, Brian.
Great, thank you. One thing I want to mention just very briefly is that there's also something in L2 called groups. And basically groups is somebody who's not at the state library or a library system or at a catalog consortium, but is able to add events into the L2 calendar. My understanding is that for the local networking groups within IHLS, that IHLS staff currently adds those events to the systems calendar. But groups do need to be added by system staff, and there needs to be at least one group administrator who's responsible for that group's events. And the group admin can add it and manage events for the groups and add other users as group members. It's possible for a group to restrict their event to group members only, but I'm not aware of anybody who actually does that yet, because when a group puts an event up, they usually want as many people as possible to know about it and to become involved. And to see the groups in the account, under the account tab in the menu, there's a link for my groups. Which if you are a group administrator, you'll see yourself listed in there. And then there's also a directory of these groups. I know for Rails, in order for us to add give a group access in L2 to put events, we require the group first to be listed in the Rails directory of networking groups on the Rails website. Okay, a little bit about the future of L2. In the short term, there's a bunch of technical stuff going on. We are going to be doing some server and software updates next month. I'd mentioned towards the beginning in talking about the history of L2 that the calendar is built on a heavily forked instance of the Intercept package of plugins for Drupal. We do have plans to work with our developers to unfork our instance of Intercept, because we want to get back into the whole community spirit of the open source project that both Drupal and Intercept are. That's something that you as users of L2 will really not see that at all, but it's something we will be working on. We're also working on improvements to the design of L2. We are very cognizant of feedback we get from members who will say things such as, "Oh, the calendar display is really ugly." And I actually love hearing stuff like that, because we want to make things better for people. We also have an L2 governing group, which I will discuss a little bit in just a moment. But first, yeah, with some design improvements. Yeah, this is the designer's concept for a much nicer look for the calendar, which we are looking forward to implementing sometime soon. This will make folks a little happier. And there are a bunch of other design improvements. One other thing I want to mention, because I just heard about this week again, is that when you're looking at a library building here and the library's hours, the intent here is that, oh yeah, this library, their hours on Tuesday and Wednesday are the same, but the way that the narrowness of that day of the week column there in the hours display, since it puts Tuesday and Wednesday on separate lines, it's really not clear that Wednesday hours are the same. So we want to fix that as part of our display improvements. We do have an L2 governing group, or L2G2 as we call it. And the purpose of this group is to guide future priorities for L2 development. The main reason for that is that L2 is a statewide project, and decisions should not be made just by Rails staff, which for a great part has been the case for the last couple of years. So we have a group of people from Rails staff, IHLS staff, state library staff, consortia staff, and also a few members of the L2G2 who are at libraries, both in Rails and in IHLS. And so any major changes, improvements, priorities for those, we'll go through them. Members of the group will also be helping us out with quality assurance, just to make sure that new things do not break other important stuff in L2. And getting help on L2. There is a nice, wonderful form for contacting the L2 help desk. On the bottom of every page, there's a help contact link to get to that form, which is at librarylearning.org/help. There's also a frequently asked questions page, which is at librarylearning.org/FAQ. And in the footer of every page, there are links to those. And on the L2 help page, there are several instruction sheets that can be downloaded. And then there is also the primary form for contacting the L2 help desk. If you're logged into L2, it will pre-populate your name and email address. And if you do use this form, and even if you're not logged in, please use the same email address that's on your L2 account, because that will expedite the routing of your support ticket. You can use this form if to report problems, if you encounter an error on L2, if you just want to make a suggestion of something that will make L2 better. Please, you may do that through this form as well. If you do have, say, for example, a question about an event, such as, hey, is this event being recorded? For that, it's usually quicker to directly contact the event sponsor, and each event should have a contact person for that event listed. It's usually excuse me, usually quicker to contact the event sponsor than to go through the contact L2 form, because what will end up happening is we'll end up forwarding your question to the sponsor anyway. But yeah, especially for any difficulties or other problems you encounter on L2, we do want to hear from you. Again, we want to fix things. We want to make things better. It's usually if something's not working right for you, it's not your fault. So don't feel bad about, I can't figure out how this works. Please let us know. We'll work things out with you. And if you go to the frequently asked questions page, you will find some guidance on various issues on, well, why can't I get logged into L2? And there are various possibilities for that. There are answers to questions about annual certification, various other common issues with L2. And that actually concludes everything that I wanted to talk about. So we can open things up to any final questions, any questions about anything I talked about earlier. I have some time to answer them for you. And I'm going to stop my screen share as well.
I know we have talked about this amongst ourselves, amongst the two systems and the state library, about the future of putting more of the, or being able to link to the different annual reports libraries have to do. Do you want to give us kind of uh, an overview of what's going to happen with that process? Are more things going to be accessible through L2, or is it just going to be certification? And so where are we at with that? What's going on?
That's a very, very good question. Uh, I can't remember, is it 2024 or 2025 that the state library's contract with counting opinions is up? But yeah, we have started conversations with the state library about certain other state library reports, moving them into the L2 platform. But as of right now, there's nothing nothing really to report on that front, other than yes, we are very highly, and Anna knows this as well at the systems. Uh, we are highly aware of the inconvenience that having to enter the same information on in all these different reports causes for libraries. And yes, we want to we would love to make things as convenient as possible. To move something like IPLAR into L2, that's something that there are technical issues that would need to be addressed as far as getting that information into the federal IMLS database, and also an issue that we would need additional grant funding to make that happen, because that would be a major development undertaking as well. So that is something that I know we at Rails are very much open to, and have engaged in conversations with the state library about. But as of right now, there's really nothing that's that is real information that can be reported about that. Yes, we're definitely going to do something, or no, that's not happening. There's no answer on that just yet right now.
Okay, that's good to know. I think that there's real potential down the road, and I'd love to see where we're at in like 5 years, 10 years. I can see us adding more content development in this area, and it would be nice to access a lot of those things, like all of the data from the IPLARs in a much easier searchable way.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
anyway,
And this is also something that's part of what the L2 governing group, part of their charge too, is if is there a need for some additional data fields for the libraries in L2?
yeah.
And that's something that if with discussion with L2G2, if that yes, this is something that really needs to be in there, then then that's something that we may move forward to with as well.
Okay. Now, do you see the chat questions, Brian?
Yes, I do see the chat questions. Thank you for the compliment on my wonderful display of dinosaurs and dinosaur art. There's actually some additional things that are off screen. There's like I think a 1/5 or 1/10 size T-Rex head mounted on the wall as well. But okay, where to enter this information on L2 holidays? You would edit your library building, and I actually should. I'm not looking at anything on the web at all at the moment, because my experience is that websites and Zoom don't work well together, at least not for my home office setup here. But let's, so I'm not giving you bad information. And you're at Macon Public Library. I actually have L2 superpowers. So for the purpose of troubleshooting, I can actually pretend to be anybody on L2, which is a superpower that I use only when it's necessary for answering questions and troubleshooting. So I'm looking up South Macon Public Library District. There we go. Okay, Vicki, if you don't mind, I'm going to pretend to be you for a moment. Okay, I'm going to screen share again. Okay, so here's the L2 library building profile for South Macon Public Library District. You'll see I have an edit tab here. I am the library director. And we'll scroll down here on the page, and under hours, holiday hours are actually should be listed under closed. So there's where you can say Christmas Eve, and we're closed December 24 through December 24 for Christmas Eve. And then we can repeat and add additional holidays in there. And Vicki, does that answer your question? Okay, excellent. And if there are additional questions, I don't know what timetable Anna is on for this meeting. I know I have an 11 o'clock that I will need to get to, but I have a few more minutes if anyone else does have a question.
I'm sure people will have questions later on. So if they have, they can use the help portion of L2 to enter their questions, and then that'll circulate back to staff who can handle that. So
Yes, and if they ask any questions, Anna, that you can't answer there, Anna will certainly let me know.
oh yeah, no worries about that. Okay. This is good.
Okay.
It was, you can see a lot of people learned a lot of stuff today, and I appreciate it. I think I have been shown this, but it was good to be reminded of some features I've kind of forgotten about. And so it was
Well,
useful.
it was good to remind myself as I was preparing this this presentation. So
Yeah, it's, until you need something, you can remember you were shown it, but you don't remember exactly how. So it's nice. Again, this is a wonderful library tool. You can tell it was created by library people because we all want to support each other and share our information. So, and this is a perfect example of this. And this is something that I don't know if any other state really has this kind of thing where it's a statewide project
yeah.
that provides this much information to everyone in the state.
Well, and this is part of the reason why we want to kind of defork our intercept instance that we're using on L2, because once we do that, then it's something that, that kind of like there can be an L2 add on top of the basic intercept that other states would be able to then adopt.
Yeah, I think it would be nice because I think we lead in a lot of areas, and it's nice, for other states, to take advantage of that. I know, we take advantage of other states and some of the things they do too. So again, great profession we're
Yeah.
in.
Thanks. Yeah. Years ago, the old L2, there was another state that had asked if they could, and we're like, "Yeah, no, no, really, you don't want. And so, but yeah, it'll be nice eventually if we can get this out to be an actual full-fledged open source product that others would be able to use.
That's
Okay, I need
great.
to head out to another meeting, but thank you very much for having me. I very much appreciate the invitation. And again, I do want to stress again that I love hearing what's wrong with L2 because again, if I don't hear what's wrong, then we don't know what to fix. And we want to make it better for everyone. So again, thanks very much.
And thank you,
I'm gonna
Brian. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, now we can head into the second part of our stimulating meeting this morning, and that's a roundup of things that are happening at IHLS. Leslie cannot join us, but she did want me to share the information that we're going ahead with our exploration of the material handler proposition that we're looking at. And we have formed a group of members, an advisory committee to look at this and give input as well. And they will be meeting in early January. And I see Carol Hogan Downey is here from communications, and I'm going to ask her if she'd like to give us an update on things that are happening there. I'm sure some of you have noticed our lovely new website. So Carol, would you like to speak further about what's happening in communications?
Absolutely. Let me see if I can start my video. It says that you stopped it. So,
Sorry.
oh no, you're fine. It just says I have to wait for you to turn it back on for me, I think.
John? Like, oh, stop video? No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So our big thing that I feel like we have been working on forever. We now have the new website live. It was a soft launch. So that's why you weren't notified unless you were at the school librarian update with Leah. But and it's a soft launch because we have a lot of, I mean, there are still some areas that have, some kinks to work out. And we need your help with that. So this is the homepage, of course. I'm scrolling down to the bottom of the page so that you can see this great link for report a website problem. So if you're on the site and something seems to be missing, or that you find a typo, God forbid, but you find a typo, or you're just having an issue, like there's an issue, then please click on this link. It will take you to a form here that you can use to fill it out or to report those issues. We would love to find out if there's an issue so that we can fix it as quickly as possible. A couple of other cool things that are on the website. You will see in here, I think it might be its first spot. You can click on this for a video that goes through our services section in more detail. I spoke about this at Member Day, but something that we've been working on yesterday and a little bit this morning, catching up with, is our library job board. So now instead of emailing the webmaster, you can submit a job yourself and filling out this form. This is for, of course, Illinois library organizations as well as neighboring states or neighboring areas. The one thing I will caution you about too, as you do this, is that it is required to input the pay. Sorry, I was doing this yesterday on a smaller screen, so now it reorganized it a little bit for me. um, but it is, yes, hourly rate slash salary range. As I understand it from Jill, our HR director, it is Illinois state law to list the pay rate on a job posting. So that is why that's required there. It may seem a little bit odd, but you submit it and it will go to Shandy, the marketing administrator, or me, and we will approve provided it's not like a bot, we're going to approve the post. We're not going to be proofing them. We're not going to be reviewing them in the sense of like making sure things are correct. As we say here, all of these things, that responsibility lies with the person posting it. And of course, up here is where we have our submitted or application for IHLS jobs. And then our resource guides have moved to issues. If we had more space there, it would say issues in librarianship, but we don't, and we needed one word. And so we know the word issues isn't great for that, but we couldn't find one that's better. If you have an idea, let us know. But you can find the censorship and book challenges page that we, are still keeping up with. And I will also be sending out a link. And finally, one other thing, if you weren't at Members Matter or you didn't see it in the newsletter or on social media, I'm moving to our About page. We have the IHLS store. So this link right here, or this, or this, well, or that, they're going to take you to this Redbubble page where you can buy anything with these designs on them. And the proceeds for that, any money that we get from that, goes to building a marketing micro grant for member libraries. So you can feel really good about that. A lot of us here at IHLS have already purchased things and really enjoy the quality. We went with Redbubble because they actually have an ethics statement, which was really important to us. So yeah. All right. And I think that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Carol, I'm sorry, there were some questions for you.
I'm sorry, I didn't even.
So someone asked, will the job postings upload to the listings right away, or you kind of said it goes through you? How quick is the turnaround between submitting the job ad and having it appear on the board?
It should be very quick. We'll get an email notification about this. So as soon as we get that email, we're gonna hop on and approve it. Providing some emergency doesn't happen. We hope to not be backed up like we have been the past few months. Yeah, so pretty quickly.
Okay, and then someone else said library and resources. Are the issues really just for librarians?
Great question. So we have over here on our services page, resources for library. It's a database and it's behind a login screen, but that is where you're going to have things that are for librarians as well as library patrons, things you can include on your own library website, for instance, or at your library. Under issues, this is going to be the audience that is librarians or library staff. So it's things for your for you and your staff.
I would also say that probably a lot of it would be appropriate to share with your library boards as well, just so they're familiar with the challenges that might come up. So just a caveat there. Okay. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you.
I see Cassandra is here. Cassandra, would you like to give us a share update, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Anna. I have a few really exciting announcements. The first is that we have a new transitional member. The Freeburg Community High School has joined SHARE, so we're so lucky to have them. And so please help welcome their Freeburg Community High School. I also have an update. We've been talking a lot about a program called Aspen Discovery. And what that is a program that it's a layer that goes on top of Polaris for the online catalog. And part of that, it's a next gen product that has frankly just better technology than what we're currently using, which is called PowerPack. And so two of the big things that I think are going to be really huge enhancements for patrons is the first is a different algorithms. So I know that you've all seen where, you know, the Colleen Hoover book came out with a prequel to one of her older books. That one got tons of holds, but turns out that their current algorithm is the last in for cataloging is the first result. So what it does is it actually rolls up those records. So it's all of the editions for all of the books. And so usually people just want, you know, just what's available. And so they don't necessarily care that it's this edition versus that edition. There is options for more specific searching, and people can, you know, identify that they'd rather have large print. But it just makes it easier. It's more relevant results to what they're looking for. Another example is Harry Potter, for example. If currently, if you've got a kiddo looking for a Harry Potter book, you're going to like page 7 to be able to find that, unless you start identifying, like filtering down. This Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is going to come up as the first result. So again, it's just a better searching experience for patrons. The second piece of that is the integration with e-resources. So we have a lot of libraries that have Overdrive, for example, but right now we don't include them in our pack. And that's because there's not a masking feature where, let's say I see Esther's picture on there. So let's say the Brim Library has the Overdrive Consortium, but next to her I see Veronica at Sally Logan, but Sally Logan doesn't, or they're in a different Overdrive Consortium, because that happens too. So her patrons would be able to see the other items, but then maybe not have access to it. And so it's super frustrating. There's also just some cataloging concerns because those records aren't always the greatest. So what this does is this new discovery layer actually does integrate the e-resources. And so you could include your Overdrive Consortium, and it would be you would have that masking feature. So when the patron was logged in or they're searching at your library, they'd be able to see what you have available. And so those are just two of the biggest features. There's also tons of other, you know, bells and whistles. It's a newer product. And so the idea is that first we need to get the membership to agree to move forward with Aspen for those that want it. We are not doing this as a consortium-wide product simply because we know there's so many libraries that just simply cannot afford an increase. The idea is the cost per member will range from $250 for schools. That's just going to be a flat fee for schools, $250. For publics, there's going to be more of a range. If you have additional customizations and you have e-resources integration, it could go up to $2,500. We need a minimum of 25 libraries at $2,500, or essentially an equivalent, to be budget neutral. So the members that are using it will be paying for it. So we need to get to that threshold. And so so that's kind of the price range. And once we have, we'll be sending out a reservation sheet for those that are interested. And then once we have that, we'll be able to get a better scale like we do with all of our other products. And so we're really excited about Aspen, but it's a big project. Again, there's two next steps. First, we'll need to vote to move forward for those that want it. And so our next members group meeting will be on January 12th at 2 p.m. And so we'll have a brief demo of Aspen so you can take a look. We'll also record it. We are also planning some demos to send out for you know, our schools versus the publics, so you can kind of see how they integrate because they're a little bit different. And so again, we're just very excited about that. The other items that are coming up for our annual membership meeting, we will have some policy changes. There is a barcode refresher training that is going to be up for change to our certification for barcoders, just because there have been some issues that come up frequently. So we think that that will help alleviate some of those problems. We also will have some governance changes. Our Share Executive Council just went over some changes of some language, but also some procedural things for the Share Executive Council. So we do ask that all of our members take a look at that, because we do need a quorum of 50% of our members plus one. So that's usually around about 170 libraries that we need to vote. And so that's the next two steps for again, Aspen. First, the member vote to move forward, and then the second piece of those that do want it to go ahead and reserve that. And then so that's the Aspen and annual membership. Then the second thing I just wanted to mention is that we are also considering a pilot project for an affiliate program for schools. So it is intended as an expansion. And so we are trying to reach out to more of our school member libraries that do not have Share, but might want it, and how to better promote our services through some type of temporary, like a pilot program, a temporary program, kind of like a free trial. So we are working on that so they can make that argument to their administrators. So if you know any school librarians, I don't see any that are here today, but if you have any in your community or know people in your community that might be interested in Share, please let them know to be on the lookout for that. We will be sending that out probably sometime in the early new year. The last thing, which I think that we have been getting a lot of questions about, you might have seen an update in the Share newsletter. That is a change to how we handle fines. And that is specifically because fine-free libraries, they get a patron that's a reciprocal borrower. And when that happens, there was a question, the revenue goes to the reciprocal library, right? And so do they have the authority to waive those fines? Well, if they do, it does cause a lot of problems for the home library. And then you have challenges with customer service. And it's really, we have also heard from members that for the fine-free libraries, they start to have some challenges with customer service. It's really 6 of one and half a dozen of another, unfortunately, because you're never going to please those customers that have fines and don't want to have fines and want them waived. So that being said, our recommendation, after having it sent through a survey and then member comment, it was evaluated by the Share Circulation and Resource Sharing Committee. We did determine that we're going to use our existing philosophy and based on other policies to just clarify that a library, fine-free or not, should not waive fines from the patron's home library. And that's just basically the same as all of our existing philosophies and procedures that, you're not supposed to waive blocks, you're not supposed to override renewals. Now, just to clarify, because I did get a couple questions about this, the fines follow the patron, not the item. So again, I'll pick on Vicki over at South Macon. If she's sending items out and it goes to a different library for interlibrary loan, the fine code is not going to follow that book. It's actually going to follow the patron that's checking it out from their library policies. So if you're fine free, all of your patrons are still going to be fine free. That's not going to change. It's just that loophole in the reciprocal borrowing. So I really wanted to have just take a minute to clarify that if anybody had questions. And then also just reiterate, one of our other existing policies is that when you go to a library, we do ask that you make it that you do allow patrons to pay fines so that they can check out, and that's already our existing policy. If you have a patron coming in that has a question or a concern, then you can refer them back to their home library to call to work that out. If they're coming in and they just want to pay it, great, go ahead and take the money. Let's say that you're fine free and you don't want to process that money, you can send it on. You can have a policy that says over $20 we'll send on because we're fine free. That's still also entirely up to you and your library. So you get to make that determination if there's a threshold or it's existing policy as well. You're more than welcome to just go ahead and keep that money. So does anybody have any questions on that? I saw a question for Aspen, but I'll circle back to that. Does anybody have any questions about the fine free change? And so as people might be typing, I do see a question, will Aspen change our interface at all? Like if a patron comes in and asks me for a book, when I check for it in Polaris, will what I see look different? And the question is no. That the Polaris database has two layers, one for staff, which is either through the staff client or LEAP, and then one for patrons. So the only thing that will change would be the one for patrons. And so they would see all of our MARC records that are being entered by our catalogers. They're also going to see like AR levels, movie ratings, reviews. So it's a lot of, like I said, a lot of bells and whistles that'll really enhance the patron experience. Oh, and thank you, Danielle. She's shared some information about where to find more details about Aspen. And we are still accepting member comments. So if you have any thoughts that you'd like to share, please feel free to include those. You'll just sign in to the share website with your Polaris information, and then you can also add a comment. And then the last thing I almost forgot, we did have an upgrade to 7.3. If you have not had a chance to see Dina's PowerPoint presentation, it was fantastic seeing all of the new features on 7.3. If you didn't receive it, please let us know because we can make sure that you're signed up for the share email for official business. And so make sure you're signed up for that, those emails as well.
Okay, a lot of stuff going on.
Sorry,
Good
no, I
stuff.
told you, and I had a lot of stuff today. Thank you guys so much for your time today.
That's really great. It sounds like exciting times ahead for Polaris.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I see Danielle shared some more links, so that's good. Okay, the delivery department has a new leader, John Becker, and he could not attend today because he is out actually driving the routes and getting to know the various hubs and the various routes within each hub, and getting to know the delivery staff and getting to know the libraries that we reach out to and touch every day. So that's where he's at, and I'm sure, he will get back in touch with us if, with what he sees and any improvements he might want to make. And I'm the only person here right now from membership. I'd like to wish you all a happy holiday season from membership department. And I'd also like to remind you that in January, we have as Brian had mentioned, you can complete your certification and you can, starting in January, and the per capita grant will also be up in January. So I think with the per capita grant, you have until March 31st to complete it. But for you eager beavers, you can get right on it and start cracking right at the beginning of January. And I think that, and then I also want to remind everyone that our next Members Matter will be with Ryan from O'Fallon and Cindy from ILA, and they will talk about the power of networking and how ILA can be a key component in that. And I think it'll be a great program. I encourage you to join us for that. And I think without further ado, that's all I have to say, and that's the roundup. So I thank you. I hope you enjoy the holidays, stay safe and warm, and enjoy your family and friends. And we'll see you probably next year. So take care now. Goodbye.